Monday the 24th of March 2025, and I'm just about to head off to the Orium Heriot-Watt University, where me and Rory are going to be taking through some fitness testing, VO2 Max testing and lactate threshold testing. We are using this as an opportunity to see where our fitness levels are after our most recent Hyrox in anticipation of the World Championships in Chicago. So this should give us a really good idea of like how we match up, where we need to improve our fitness, can inform our training. There's a whole lot of stuff that this can help us do. So I'm about to head off and then we're going to commence testing at about 10 o'clock. So VO2 Max essentially is the maximum amount of oxygen that your body can uptake during exercise. Imagine it as like a gas tank. If your VO2 Max is poor, you might be looking at a really small gas tank. It's only got 1 litre in there. But if you build your VO2 Max, then you've essentially got this gas tank that grows and grows and grows and grows, and you can utilise more oxygen during exercise. So the top runners, the top marathon runners in the world, the top endurance athletes, their VO2 Max is going to be pretty substantial. Your lactate threshold, you've got two parts to this. You've got LT1 and LT2. The top end of LT2, when we get above that, your body is in a place where it's producing more byproduct, the byproduct of lactate, more than your body can remove. And that's when you begin to start feeling this, that feeling of my legs are on fire, I can't keep going. Part of that can be psychological, but a lot of it is to do with the byproduct of lactate. So an interesting little task I thought I could do. I'm gonna show you what my watch thinks my lactate threshold is and what my watch thinks my VO2 Max is. Let's see how it compares to actual scientific testing. It's showing my VO2 Max as 60, which apparently is superior, which is pretty good. It's right at the top end of that scale. I'm not entirely sure it's right up there, but we'll see. Also showing me my lactate threshold pace to be 3:47. Again, not entirely sure I 100% agree, but it seems to be what the Garmin says. We've arrived in Edinburgh. I have never needed a piss so badly in my life. That's the first mission, and then we'll go and find out where we're going. So, what we're getting ourselves in for today, pretty brutal. Essentially what the idea is you jump on to the treadmill at a pretty comfortable, easy pace, and usually the protocol is every single minute they'll up the pace of the treadmill or increase the incline. It's usually up the pace. You've got a whole load of apparatus attached to you, oxygen mask, you'll have heart rate monitors on. They'll keep increasing the pace of the treadmill every single minute until you essentially max out at your VO2 max with your heart rate and your oxygen consumption. As you can imagine, this is brutal and you need to push yourself to the absolute limits or else the data is going to be skewed. And essentially what it can be really good at is finding out if you're a shite bag or not, because you will get found out if you pull out early because your heart rate won't be where it should be and your oxygen consumption will still have basically more to give. Lactate threshold testing is a tiny little bit different. Essentially what happens there is, again, there's different protocols for how they do this, but the pace shouldn't be as brutal and as horrible. What they're going to do is, in time intervals, they're going to prick blood. Sometimes they do it on your ear, sometimes they do it on your finger. I think it's more likely they're going to do it on your finger. They will take that blood sample on regular intervals and they'll go and test it to see where your lactate levels are. This is going to help you dictate where your lactate threshold is, your true lactate threshold, not the one that your watch tells you where your lactate threshold is. So you're going to be able to find out pretty nicely where training zones 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 are, where your lactate threshold LT1, LT2 is, and then that's going to help you dictate your training moving forward. So Rory is going through his lactate threshold testing, then I'm going to do mine, and then he's going to do his VO2 Max, and then I'm going to do mine. Stand by for the results.
Awesome work. Well done.
Testing done. That was tough. That was really tough. We most definitely pushed ourselves to the limits there, as we were always going to do. I'm quite interested to see how the guy that was doing the test, oh fuck, someone's got a fucking chainsaw course to do. Me and Rory very evenly matched on pretty much everything, which is exactly what you want. Shut at you. As I was saying before I got interrupted by a chainsaw. Yeah, I'm interested to see what David comes back with. He said he'll maybe take a few days to get a PDF over to us with all the data, what it means for our training. He was a top guy, really knowledgeable, explained things really well and made the testing a really streamlined process. This testing is going to be kind of pushed out for the public over the next couple of months, I think he was saying, so it'll be more readily available. We just kind of emailed and said, do you do this? And they were like, yes, we do actually do this. But I think they're actually starting to advertise it now. So if you want to get this done, you can go down to Heriot-Watt at the Orium and get it done. It's definitely a worthwhile way to spend your cash, in my opinion. So I'm going to sit down behind my laptop and I'm going to explain what this actually means for me and Rory's training moving forwards in the next section. So, 2 tests, the lactate threshold test and the VO2 Max test. We had to get our height taken, we had to get our weight taken, we had to fill in a questionnaire, we had to let the guy know what our rough kind of 5k PB time was. That would then dictate the start pace for each of the tests. We got initial blood lactate levels taken, so that's a little prick of your finger, draw a little bit of blood, put it on a test strip, and that will basically show you the amounts of lactate in your bloodstream at that particular moment. You jumped on the treadmill at your start pace. For both me and Rory, that was 10 kilometers per hour. There was a small gradient just to mimic outdoor environment. I think it was a 1% gradient. What then happened was every 4 minutes, the treadmill speed went up by 1 kilometer per hour. And every 4 minutes, blood lactate was then taken again. Go back to the testing system, see how much was in it. If your lactate levels stayed below the 4 number, then you kept going, and essentially you would keep going until it went over 4. I completed 7 stages with the test and it terminated within 28 minutes at a running velocity of 70 kilometers per hour. The second test was the VO2 Max test. Now this was the one that I had the fear about a little bit. This is the one where you essentially have to push yourself to the absolute limits. So the idea was that we started on 10 kilometers per hour again, the gradient was 1%, mask was on, heart rate monitor was on, and we weren't testing the blood lactate levels in this one. It was only to do with the oxygen consumption. Every single minute for this one, the speed of the treadmill went up 1 kilometer. We started on 10 and kept going until essentially we couldn't go anymore. The test was terminated for both me and Rory when the treadmill got to 19 kilometers per hour. Rory got a little bit further than me on this one. He got all the way through the 19. I stopped right on the 19, and that kind of took us up to about a 3:10 per kilometer pace, which is quite quick for myself and was really hard to hold. It was brutal. By the end of it, I was kind of bent over, like could not breathe. So what do these results actually mean for us? Now, there's a nice little PDF that Heriot-Watt University and David sent us over to help us really understand what we can do with this information. How does this inform our training moving forwards? What you need to understand about lactic acid or lactate is that it's not actually a bad thing. Lactate can actually be reused by 2 main pathways: oxidization through pyruvate for energy production in well-oxygenated muscles, or it can go back into the liver, which then returns to the muscles as fuel. It's important because if we're able to understand where the top end of our lactate threshold is, and we do not surpass that during our training, we can safely say that that lactate is going to be replenished and reused, and we can keep going consistently at a steady pace just below our lactate threshold for a pretty long period of time. However, if we don't understand that information and we don't know what that number is, and we run too fast and we max out, then our body can't clear that lactate and we're going to burn up, and we're perhaps going to bunk on our race. We're going to go too fast in that half marathon, or we're going to go too quickly in that Hyrox. Some of the evidence that we collected from Heriot-Watt as well was able to give me a really good indication of what sort of pace that is. So the bottom end of my lactate threshold was around about a 4:16 pace, and the top end of lactate threshold 2, or LT2, whatever you want to call it, was around about a 3:59 pace. So I can safely say that anywhere between 4:16 and 3:59, that is my threshold pace. One of the perhaps negative bits of information that I got back, not negative, constructive and helpful, was that my running economy is not good. My technique is not great. I kind of knew that anyway. I'm a bit of a bigger runner, and it's not something that I've done a whole load of work on. And essentially what that means is, like, I could achieve similar running speeds without leaking as much energy and without creating as much fatigue as what I am already. This isn't like a fitness thing, this is a coaching thing. This is probably me sitting down and going through the track with some sort of running coach, and him actually just like breaking down the way that I'm running. Through the VO2 Max testing, we did find out that, interestingly enough, that the VO2 Max rating that I got was pretty good. It was at the top end of the scale, and it was actually only 0.3 off from what my Garmin said it was going to be. And I always kind of was a little bit skeptical of what the Garmin said, but it seems to be there or thereabouts. Probably the most useful bit of content that we got back from them was my individualized training zones. So a lot of you guys will have heard of zones 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And basically what it was able to do for me was show me not only the heart rates that I should be working at, but show me the paces that I should be working at, and show me the treadmill speeds that I should be working at. So I can utilize this information in any of my sessions now. I just need to refer to this and go, what sort of pace should I be running at today if I want to run threshold? And typically what you'll find for the majority of athletes is that they're trying too hard. They're running too hard. They're running harder than the zones would tell them to. So if you were to get something like this done, it would more than likely tell you to go a little bit slower in your slow runs, and it would probably tell you that your threshold work ends up being like way too fast. That's definitely what it showed me anyway. I'm going too fast in my threshold work. It's more VO2 max work that I've been doing. Moving forwards, for both mine and Rory's training, there's a couple of little adaptations that we're going to be making off the back of this information. I'm going to be having a look at my running economy. I'm going to be having a look at my technique. The second thing is we are going to be able to use the training zones to pretty accurately dictate paces at which we should be running. I just want to say thanks to David down at the Orium at Heriot-Watt University for taking us through the testing protocol. It was super informative, super well run, an amazing facility, and if you're thinking about it, I would recommend giving it a bash. All you need to do is jump on Heriot-Watt Orium website and give him an email. If you want me to send you on his email because you want to give it a try, just give me a heads up, message me on Instagram, comment below, and I will give you his email and you can get yourself booked in for this. And finally, a thank you to Fraser's Body Shop once again for sponsoring their YouTube channel. I know this has been a pretty heavy kind of sciencey type based episode, but hopefully you took something away from it and maybe you'll be thinking about doing something like this soon.